Nor. I am so excited to be going live with you today and shooting this video to go over what we did in our homeschool for year 7 of our homeschooling journey. And we did 5th grade and 6th grade. So I have a daughter who's 10, going to be 11, and a son who's 12. And when he started, he was 11. So I'm so excited because this year was a little better from last. This is for the 2020-2021 year, and 2020 was a hot mess, like most of you have felt when it comes to everything that we've had going on with the pandemic. And then we also had some things going on personally with our family. Our dog, our 12-year-old Corgi, passed away. Grandma also was sick with cancer. And we're also in a new home. And we moved to this new place about 4 months before COVID hit. So in 2019, or rather when the pandemic hit, yes. So it's been a little bit rough, but we're feeling much better this year, and that's definitely reflected in everything that we did as far as curriculum. So 2020, we kind of took it a little slower. It was a transitional period, and we were used to going out and about doing field trips, classes, and all kinds of things, and meeting up with friends. And because of everything that was going on, it was a big change. And we did have to take some time to self-soothe and regroup and process and transition and really sit within ourselves as a family to really deal with those transitions and those changes. So I am going to be having a 2020 video up going over what we did during the pandemic. But right now we're going to be going over 2021 and then the last part of 2020. So we officially started around October. We usually take the month of September to relax, to really enjoy a lot of the things that are open as far as not having a lot of people, so museums and things like that. This year, obviously, it was different, but we still kept to that rhythm where we really enjoyed September and going out to parks or just enjoying time together as a family and doing a lot of those those start of the year traditions when it comes to homeschooling. So my kids really like taking that time. In the past, we've done Great Wolf Lodge. Great Wolf Lodge hosts these amazing homeschool events. And we were used to doing also the Turtleback Zoo, not back to school theme that a lot of homeschoolers did. That was up in East Orange. And then there was also a stone soup celebration where a lot of homeschoolers gathered at a park. We would all bring an ingredient and put it in a bowl, and we would read the stone soup story. So we did that, and then there's also a book that was produced by a homeschooler that I'll link at the bottom that we usually read every year to get our year started. And we also take pictures, bake, and have meals to really celebrate the new year. So that's what we did in September. And then in October, we started our year 4 or Build Your Library Level 4 curriculum. And we're eclectic homeschoolers, so we really borrow and incorporate different things, not just from one specific philosophy. So we do use Build Your Library as our sort of spine. This year we made a lot of changes. So when we did Level 2, we were very purist and we did everything. We read every single book. Then in Level 3 with the pandemic, we picked and we chose and we omitted and we added, and we really made the curriculum our own, as well as adding in other things that we liked. And then this year, I kind of followed the same rhythm when it comes to that as well. So if you're new here, if you're new to me, I'm Stefanie, and my family is we're you could say life homeschoolers. So we're not pandemic homeschoolers, but we've been homeschooling since 2013, the summer of 2013. And my kids had a short stint in public pre-K and in private pre-K, specifically my son. And then my daughter had a year of public school pre-K. And then after that, we had a lot of things happen in public school that just showed that it wasn't a good fit for our family. I also have children that have special needs, different special needs. My daughter's dyslexic, and she also has auditory processing. And my son, he has a sensory, and he's also a very fast and rapid learner, or what they would term, you could say, gifted, but he also has sensory, and he used to have Tourette's. So all of these things really made it really difficult for them to excel and to really enjoyed their learning environment. So they've really thrived in the homeschooling environment. So it's been really great. So everything that I'm sharing with you is taking into consideration what their specific needs are, as well as their interests. So my daughter loves art. She loves more of the right brain activities, the narrative things. She's also an excellent communicator, so she loves to talk and chat. And then my son is more on the logic and STEM side. He's very good with math, even though he doesn't really like it, but he does like video games. So a lot of the choices that I made had to do with that. And yeah, so like I mentioned, we've been homeschooling for about 7 years. So we've tried a lot of different curriculum, a lot of different approaches, and a lot of the things that we've come across and that we've been using have really worked. So I've stuck with them. And my biggest advice, if you're just starting out, if you're a new homeschooler after the pandemic, is if it's not broken, don't fix it. If you find something that works for your family, stick to it and count it as a blessing. And if something's not working, then of course, adventure out and try to find something else that's better suitable for your kids and their learning styles. So my daughter is very much a visual learner. She's also an auditory learner. My son is also a big auditory learner as well. So we do a lot of read alouds, a lot of literature-based things, and they really enjoy that approach. So you're also going to be seeing a lot of that. So eclectic homeschoolers, just to define what that is, that means that we borrow from different philosophies. I'm going to link at the bottom a video by Charlotte Mason, homeschooling, that goes over the different homeschooling flavors, the big tenets or big umbrella terms or approaches of homeschooling, if you will. So that way you can kind of see what those are. So we do like things from the classical method, from Charlotte Mason, from project-based learning, even some unschooling. We are very relaxed. So we do take big breaks, and I do let my kids self-lead and really give opinions and let me know what they like, what they don't like. And we're by no means very by the book, but we do have a certain rhythm every day. And I'm going to be sharing with you what my morning and evening routine is in other videos. But we do have a sort of rhythm, but we're also very honoring of the child, of the person, of their desires and their needs to take time off, to introspect, to discover, to research, and to really take that time as a person. So if they need a break, we definitely do that too. But we do homeschool all year round. We don't go through the public school system of September to May or June. We pretty much homeschool all year round in the main subjects. And then subjects like history and science, we mostly do from October till around June, July. So let's start off. So I did share a post earlier today going over what our routine has been this year. So I'm going to link that at the bottom because it's a nice little reference of bullet points, or I'll just probably copy and paste it in the notes or in the comments. So that way you can see the timestamps and just the order of how I'm going through things. But so we wake up. My son is a really early riser, so he's usually up at the crack of dawn or close to it. So around 6:30, 7 o'clock. I usually wake up at 5 because I'm also a work-at-home mom. I have my own business. So at 5 o'clock, I usually start my morning routine, and I get some things out of the way as far as what things that have to do with my business. And then around 7 o'clock, he's usually up, and I'm usually making breakfast and all those kinds of things. So by 8 o'clock, everybody's had breakfast, and dad's at home working from home, so he's also having breakfast with us. And then around 8:30, they do their morning chores. They go and they make their beds, they brush their teeth, they groom themselves, do their hair. That's something that I require them to do, and it's very Charlotte Mason based, making sure that we instill good habits, good grooming and hygiene habits, and a strong morning routine. I've really felt the immense benefits from that. So that's something that I really work hard to instill in them. And then once those things are done, at 9 o'clock sharp, 9 a.m., we start. That's usually when dad is also working, so it just works out. So we start at 9, and sometimes we might start a little earlier if we have a busier day, or if we have a class or activity planned, right, smack in the middle of the day. But usually at 9, that's when we start. And if I'm still cleaning up from breakfast, they'll start this independent work. So I specifically put this work in the beginning in case I need a little bit more time cleaning up in the kitchen after breakfast. So they start off with Cursive, and for Cursive they're doing books 1 and 2 of the Scholastic Cursive Practice, and we've done a lot of Cursive curriculums throughout the years, ever since kindergarten, and my kids love jokes, and they love riddles and wacky facts and all those kinds of things, so they've really enjoyed this curriculum. So to give you an idea of what it looks like, this is the wacky jokes one. So they have 3 words, and then they copy it straight across as many times as they can with commas in between. And there's a little tip over here that's really helpful. And then they have a sentence that incorporates the 3 words. And then they copy it down here. Now my son does have dysgraphia, so he's really struggled with the manual practice of writing. And he's really come a long way, so I'm so proud of him. And then there's usually a bonus chuckle at the bottom. So they usually like sharing these riddles with dad or telling me them if I'm still cleaning up in the kitchen. So they went over book 1. My son finished this one, and now he's in book 2, and my daughter's still in this one. So there's a few books in this series, and they're all available on Amazon. If I get a chance, I'll link them at the bottom. But yes, so the Wacky Facts one is a little bit, it's actually the same format, but it's just a little bit different because it's more fact-based. So once they finish these books, once we finish the series, I think there's one more in this one, I'll probably move them on to motivational quotes. And that's a really nice progression to really help make Cursive more meaningful. A lot of curriculums go straight from doing the alphabet, doing words and sentences straight into letter writing. And for my kids, they've really haven't enjoyed that at all. So they really like the quotes, they really like the jokes. So you want to stick to what's working and what's keeping them motivated. And then eventually, once they're ready to do letters and more longer paragraphs and essay formats, I'll definitely move them in that direction. But I'm really a strong believer in watching for readiness and really scaffolding their learning and making sure that they love what they're doing and it doesn't feel like drudgery. So right after Cursive, they usually do spelling, and we've been using the Jack Chris Soaring with Spelling curriculum for a few years now. So they're in level 3, and we've been just going slowly through them, and we moved from another curriculum that was very, very intense. I think it was Power Spelling and Horizon Spelling as well, and it was just way too much. So this has been really working really well. And just to show you what it looks like really quickly, you have your lesson, you have words over here, and then eventually when you move from level 2, you have some cursive words that you could even use if, let's say, you didn't have a cursive curriculum. You could even use these words to start off with cursive, and then it has definitions. So these words can also count as vocabulary. We don't only use these words as vocabulary. We have something else that we use as well, but you could also count this towards vocabulary. And I love that it doesn't have too many words, and then it has a few exercises per lesson, and it has a pre-test and a post-test. And I love the pre-test because if you have a more rapid-based learner, then they're able to skip the final test if they get 100 on the pre-test. And that's something that my son has really enjoyed doing, and he's done a lot. And then if you have a child that's struggling a little bit more, or maybe you're not sure where they fall as far as spelling, it's good because you're able to see which words they know, and then they can just practice the ones that they don't know, or they can just practice all of them, but you can kind of gauge where they are as far as knowing which words in the curriculum. So Then at the end, they have the final test. And then if they don't get, if they miss some words, then you can carry over those words into the next lesson. So about mid-year, I incorporated the time for learning grade spelling list. So for every lesson, I give them 4 of those words. And we're going to be doing this straight into the summer. So that's the list that I have back here. And then they do those in a notebook 5 times each. So that's what we've been doing when it comes to spelling. All right, let's see what else. Next, we have art. And now, because my daughter loves art so much, and she usually does take a long time because she is very artsy and creative and right brain based. So because I want to celebrate her strengths when I can, I give her ample time while, like I said, if I'm doing stuff in the kitchen, she can take a little bit more time with the art. So I have this notebook that I've put together for art this year, and they're doing pretty much the same curriculum when it comes to art. And I have it all here. Usually I laminate it, I hole punch it, and it's beautiful. They've done so many things when it comes to art. Let's see what else. We got this one. This one's really pretty. My daughter did this really nice sketch. And then they also found duodots in some storage material. So they did a lot of duodots. And my daughter just loves it. Look, for instance, let me show you this one. This is a beautiful sketch that she did. And usually for art, I'm pretty flexible with it. Here's another one that she did. So I do have a book that I found. Oh, here's another one too. She really likes fashion too. So here's a very fashion-based one. And then I also have cards that they've made for me in here to mommy. And I keep everything. And then here's another one. She did this as a little pop-up card. And this other one. And here's some that they did over Christmas. We did a bunch of snowflakes. We put them all over the house. And she loves doing these pop-up cards. So I keep everything in a bin. And then at the end of the year, and since we're getting there close to the end, I put everything in just in a binder like this. And then when I have some time, I laminate what I can. And then I start putting it in the hole, in the ring binder. So we did a bunch of different books. Usually I pick up these books like this, either at Barnes & Noble, Aldi, wherever I find them. And then we also do videos online on YouTube. And we haven't done anything super formal when it comes to art. We've been basically focusing on the main subjects. So math, reading, writing, and those really core foundational subjects. So art has been pretty free-forming. And because my daughter loves it so much, I've let her sort of decide and lead on what we should be doing in art. So they both decided that they love this book. So they did this for most of 2020, which was great because it didn't require any paper. It didn't require any paper. They did all of the exercises inside the book, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of the prompts were very dyslexic friendly, and they had nice prompts, really nice prompts that were very creative. So I really loved this workbook. It was a nice break from anything too instructional. So that's what they did for most of 2020. And then once they finished with that, we found these over at the Dollar Tree. So we got a couple of these, and then they did these exercises. So it was very simple drawing instructions, and then they colored them. And we always display everything on the refrigerator. So this was really fun, especially if you find yourself having trouble creating basic shapes and patterns. So they've really enjoyed all of these. And then adding further detail. And then my son also struggles with the art, so he really did enjoy those. And then this book we've been working through currently, and we're almost done with it. And then we've also been supplementing with Easy Peasy's Modern Times art, and I'll link that at the bottom. So there's a bunch of different videos that she has on there in the all-in-one Easy Peasy Homeschool. And what if my son or my daughter if they don't want to do an exercise from this book, it is a little bit more advanced. As you can see, there's a lot more shading, a lot more detail. They have the option to do an exercise from Easy Peasies. But I really do like this book. I also love how interactive and bright it is. So they've had a lot of fun doing these. And they did have some art notebooks from a few years back that they started writing and filling on both sides. And they've also just used poster paper and pattern paper to create a lot of the drawings from this book. So I really love it. You see how beautiful it is? Yes. So they're going to be wrapping that up soon, and they love doing the art. They usually chat during that time. They talk about what they're doing. It's just really nice watching them do that. And then after our independent work time, usually after they've done all of that, then they'll have a short break. They'll have a snack, and then we'll go upstairs to the couch, upstairs to the living room, and we'll do all of our read alouds and our other subjects. And we love the couch. We love just relaxing or just sprawling on the floor and making homeschooling much more relaxed in that way. So we're not in the schoolroom or the homeschool space too long. We really homeschool and use the whole entire house. And of course, whenever, if there's any illness in the house, if anybody's feeling under the weather, sometimes we'll just read in bed. That's something that we do as homeschool. So I have a few chairs here with a bunch of books, so let me just turn it quickly. Okay, so this is based off the recommendation of the Build Your Library 4 curriculum. It's an amazing curriculum because it uses literature selections. So we've been going through the Story of the World series for the past 4 years. We're finishing up the 4th book, which is The Modern Age. And for the first 3 volumes, we use the activity books for them. But by this 4th book, my kids were just over the activities. So we omitted the activity book. But we've been reading about half a chapter. And this is where we are right now. We're right here. We're almost done. Almost done. And we've been reading half a chapter. And that flow has been good so far. So for the early years, I didn't want to do anything too intense or heavy when it came to history. I love how it just touches on things lightly. It is a little bit Eurocentric, so in the later years, I do want to add in more rich text, which she does in level 5 and 6, which I'm thinking about doing for eighth grade. But next year, we're going to be doing a little bit of a break from history. So we're going to be doing a world history tour, going through the different countries, learning about the different capitals, and writing to the embassies of each country. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be cooking a lot too, and taking a little bit of a break from all of the history that we've been doing. So aside from that, the other recommendation is the Usborne Encyclopedia of World History. We've been using this for the past 3 volumes of this curriculum. So it's been a great investment because a lot of the spines, you get to use them for multiple levels. So all of these books are going to be up for sale in my Learning and Lore eBay store. So around July, you can look out for that. And if you're interested in this curriculum or in any of these books, you can find them there. All right, and for history, she also has accompanying smaller books. So for instance, this one, Where Poppies Grow, World War I Companion, is a nice, vivid, illustrated book going over World War I. So I really love that she incorporated these specific texts that were more picture style, because even at this age, kids, me as an adult, I love pictures, I love illustrations, because I'm also a visual learner. So my kids have really enjoyed and loved these books. So that's one of the historical illustrated text. Then this one's Gandhi. This is actually a substitute. The one that she recommended wasn't available, so I purchased this one, which was pretty close. And it had a lot of nice illustrations, and it went through all of his stages of development. the stages of his life. Then this one we didn't get to, Commodore Perry and the Land of the Shogun. So we'll probably do it over the summer. Any books that my kids might want to read or that I feel like I really wanted to read them, but we just didn't get to them throughout the year because maybe Christmas happened or we had a vacation or we had family come over or friends come over and they stayed with us. Then I save them and I try to get to them in the summer during our summer reading. But I don't feel obligated to get to them either. I don't guilt myself into it either, if that makes sense. So, but I do definitely keep a stack. If we get bored in the summer, the pool gets old, traveling, going camping, all those things, you can get very, very tired and you just want to hibernate and stay home. That's a great time to do a lot of summer reading. And that's what we do with these books that we don't get to. And then let's see what else. Okay, so this is one of those right brain, dyslexia friendly books. We've been really trying to master the multiplication facts. I've used so many resources. I can't even begin to tell you. And this is one of the resources that has worked. It's called Times Tables the Fun Way. And there's also an Addition Facts book that has the same format. And it's worked. It's absolutely worked. Is it a perfect book? No. There's definitely certain things, some things that aren't very politically correct in this book. One of them specifically is that they call one of the numbers a fluffy body, referring to that they're obese, and it's not nice. We spoke about it as a family, but part of the reason why they use certain language is to kind of draw attention to a certain feature to make it memorable in the memory, if that makes sense. But it's definitely not perfect, but I do love most of the stories in here. But there are a few that you might want to read before you get the book or even omit them in general. So for instance, we have 6 times 6, the Thirsty Sixes, and it has a narrative, it has a story, and then it has a play on words. So thirsty, 30, using the phonetic sound of the, and it helps to have the child remember the fact. So we've just done about 1 or 2 and cycled through this book multiple times. And eventually they remember the stories, they remember the facts, and it takes time, but this is one of those resources that has stuck, that has worked. And I'm so grateful for it because if you're a dyslexia mom, you know how tedious it can be to find the thing that clicks and that works for your child. Rote memory just doesn't do it. Sometimes it can, but sometimes it just won't. And it also makes it very tedious and boring for the child. So for science, we have Usborne Science Encyclopedia, and this is the first year that we're using this encyclopedia, and we love it because it's very bright. It's similar to the Usborne History, and it has a lot of glossy pictures. It even has links that you can explore. And for instance, today we learned about space stations, the space shuttle, and we have certain selections from this encyclopedia throughout the week, not every week. So we're not reading from all of these books all at once. They're scheduled throughout the weeks, and they're wonderful. The other one that's related to science that we're currently going through is What Color Is My World by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And this is going over African American scientists. And we've just had so much fun learning about their amazing inventions. For instance, food preservation, bread making, so many different inventions. And I love that it has a narrative of a young boy and girl and a family friend who's a handyman but is incredibly intelligent. And it just shows how everybody has a story, has knowledge, has something to contribute, not necessarily somebody that's maybe very, very well educated. Maybe they didn't have the opportunity to do that. Maybe they decided to opt out of that, but they are still incredibly intelligent, incredibly worthy, and full of knowledge. So I love the relationship that they develop in the book, and then how these Black voices and Black scientists and people are brought to the forefront. And I haven't heard of most of these, even as a Latina. So I've really enjoyed this one. And I've taken my time with it because the stories are long. It's very thin, but it has a lot of stories in it. The other one that I really love is Girls Think of Everything, Stories of Ingenious Inventions by Women. And this one's by Catherine Thimiath, and it's illustrated by Melissa Sweet. So this one's going over also inventions by women. And there are some illustrations, not too many. And we have certain selections from here. So for instance, the paper bag, the grocery bag, was invented by a woman. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool just discovering who did what. The Snuggly also, the baby papoose that we all use as mamas, or a lot of us use as mamas. So this was really, really good one. And then we have Gizmos and Gadgets, and this is one of the books that we didn't really use. We didn't really use. My kids did Kiwi crates and Tinker crates for quite a few years, and I think they got a little bit STEM burnout. I think they were like over. They're like, Mom, we don't want to do any inventions. So we read through some of the passages. We saw how they did the inventions, but they were just over it. And we might pick up the STEM kits again, but right now they're like, we don't want any more. That's it, we're done. Then we have The New Way Things Work book by David Macaulay. This is a really interesting and different book. This book, it is a little dated because technology is progressing so fast. A lot of the stuff is dated even now, but it still breaks down a lot of common things that we have right now. Household appliances, how the TV works. For instance, today we learned about the radio telescope and how it works, and it really breaks down certain things. The video recorder, holograms. It is technical. It is a kid's book, but it is pretty technical. So you might want to leave this laying around and have your STEM kid look at it, maybe read just one page, or have them thumb through it and read it. So I have read it here and there, reading certain things that have caught their interest, but not necessarily every single thing that we've been told to read from it. Okay, and then we have, so for poetry, we're doing Knock at a Star, A Child's Introduction to Poetry by X.J. Kennedy and Dorothy M. Kennedy. So usually we do poetry on Tuesdays and Thursdays. For many years we did poetry tea time. So we had tea, we had cakes or tea and crackers, and we would read the poetry. This year, that's happened here and there, but we do tend to read it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then you have a few poems, and then it also goes into certain aspects of poetry, certain things. So for instance, images, it'll have a little blurb talking about poetry and images, things to look out for, and certain poetic terms. So this book has been fun. A lot of the poems here we haven't seen before, so it's been fun to go through that. Then for art, we have some books that we did for levels 3 and even 2. So we've had these books for a while. And the first one is Why is Art Full of Naked People by Susie Hodge. And it's nice because it introduces prominent, prestigious art, and it has very vivid photos. They really like reading out of this book. And then we have the Children's Interactive Story of Art, Essential Guide to the World's Most Famous Artists and Paintings by the National Gallery. And we've also been slowly reading through this one. I love this one because it goes in tandem with the parts of history that we're learning about. So this is a really nice one. So for instance, we have, let's see, let me see if I can find an example. So for instance, the new century, right? We have new century, we have Cubism, we have Picasso, and it's scheduled with the certain parts of history that we're touching upon. So it's a nice overview of art history for the age. And then we also have Discovering Great Artists, Hands-on Art for Children in the Styles of the Great Masters. My kids have not enjoyed doing the art exercises suggested here, but they have liked the small little short biographies of the artists. So Rivera, Klee, Russell, Degas, Blake, Ghiberti, Van Eyck. I mean, they're all in here. So it's a nice overview, and they're also scheduled according to the parts of history that we're doing. So yes, so we do all of that in the couch. So they usually have snacks, they usually have a fidget. Right now my daughter's really into poppets. It's a circular silicone sort of thing. Poppets, they'll have Play-Doh, they'll have anything pretty much, just to keep their hands busy. Nothing that creates sound is allowed. They have to be attentive, but they can have something in their hands while they're listening. And they'll usually curl up, they'll lay down, and it's just a very relaxed time. So they'll have a snack, and we'll just gather around and do all those things. And then once we do all of those family sorts of subjects, those are the family subjects that we share all together, then we'll do vocabulary. So I love Word a Day by Evan Moore. I've been using these books. They're short and sweet. We've been using these since grade 1. And I did try in the beginning to do vocabulary based off of the literature. That was an epic fail. My kids hated it. A lot of the words were pretty big and they just didn't stick. And then I just said to myself, you know what? That might work for other families. It's not working for us. So I just let it go. And I found these books after looking at Worldly 3000, which is another very popular one amongst homeschoolers. But this just worked more for my kids. It was more relaxed. It was more simple, as you can see. So it has a word a day. We usually do four words. My son loves these books. So does my daughter. They really do love language and vocabulary. And they lit up when we discovered these books. They hated the literature-based vocabulary that Build Your Library includes and that we were using from before, just because it's something so popular amongst homeschoolers and home educators. But these books were amazing, 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 amazing. So we do this for half of the year. Once they finish this book, then we do some light grammar for the second half of the year. So they've already finished both these books. And my daughter will be doing the 6th grade. And this Word a Day goes from grade 1 up to grade 6. And we're going to be using another set of grammar books based off of the writing curriculum that we're using. They also have vocabulary books, so we're going to be ordering those, and those go up until grade 8. And we're also going to be using Robinson Curriculum's vocabulary cards for next year. So these are great. And the format is, it'll introduce the word. It'll give what it is, noun, verb, adjective, whatever. It'll give a short description or definition. If it has a secondary definition, it'll also provide it. Then it has the word in context. And then it'll usually have a question that creates nice dialogue and nice interaction. So my son and my daughter, they love answering the question, and then I encourage them to answer it in a complete sentence. So it counts as a little bit of oratory or speech or conversational speech practice. And for the levels 2 and 3, we did do, actually since they were very little, we've done recitation, we've done memorization. With the pandemic, we gave that up. We were like, you know what? We don't really feel like reciting or memorizing anything. So we didn't do that last year, and we didn't do it this year. We might be adding it in this upcoming year. So that's the gist with recitation and memorization. I do like it. My kids have loved it. I think it's really nice because they, hold on, they get to memorize it, and it just feels good. It feels amazing. It builds confidence. It's also tied to public speaking and communication skills. So they really do love it, and I memorize it with them. So it's a whole entire family affair. Then once we memorize a poem or a speech or whatever, we'll show it to dad, and it's just a big deal. It's a big deal in our family. So I'm excited to add some of that this upcoming year. And then, so for grammar, we did first language lessons level 2. Like I mentioned, because my children have different varying levels of dyslexia, it's something that we put a pause on to really work on reading and fluency. So we're picking this back up again. We did level 2, and now we're doing level 3. So my son did up to lesson 50, and my daughter's starting fresh. And I'm a big believer that it's important to make sure that the child feels confident in whatever it is that they're doing, and to really build that confidence. And even if it means delaying a bit, it's just an amazing thing to see them soar once they develop that confidence. So even though it's level 3, it was probably 4th grade, 3rd or 4th grade, my daughter's able to read everything in the exercises. She can read everything, she can answer it, and she feels amazing doing it. And they're at this level, they're diagramming sentences. So to give you an example, this was today's work. So she was diagramming sentences, and I never learned diagramming sentences even in college. And I think it's just an amazing way to learn grammar and to really help with the skill of writing and also speaking. So she's able to really clearly see what's a subject, what's a verb, what's an adjective, all the nuanced ways that adjectives show up, articles, all these things that are very fine too. So Susan Weiss Bauer, she's a professor at the College of William and Mary. She's also the writer of the Story of the World history series, and this is the classical based elements that we do add in. So I really do love first language lessons. So we're going to be doing this until we go right through, and then move on to level 4. And then at that point, then she has middle school and high school grade grammar curriculum. So we'll play that by ear and see, because some people are natural writers, are naturally gifted or able to grasp the meaning of grammar. So I'll definitely see how that progresses, how their writing progresses and everything else. But I think that the first 4 volumes of first language lessons gives a really strong foundation for grammar. And then we'll see what her other books look like for the later years. So far I'm really happy with those. And I love that the lessons are short. They're very, very foundational. They're very simple, but it captures the meaning and it really drives home the lesson. So I really enjoyed that. So it comes with the teacher's manual, it comes with the workbook, and then I'll usually pull out the sheets and put them in the lessons. And my son has just been overhearing as a refresher each lesson until we get to lesson 50, and then he'll join us once that time comes. All right, and then let's see, where are we now? Okay, so at this point in our day, then we do literature. And it might seem like it's a lot, but it's not. I promise you it's not. It goes really fast. And there is definitely, if you've never done read alouds or intense, a lot of reading aloud of books, it'll take a few months to get used to it. My biggest advice is to chunk it up. I do it all at once like this because I'm used to it. But in the beginning, I would take breaks. I had some water with me. Right now, for instance, because I've been talking for a little bit, I'm a little parched. So if I start feeling parched, I'll take a sip of water. And also pacing yourself while you're speaking to make sure that you take a breath and so on. So for literature, Build Your Library has a lot of suggestions this year. I really focused on incorporating things that my kids might like. Some of the selections were a little boring, so we added in some things that were different. So right now we're finishing up The Singing Tree, and this is a World War One book. It's really, really, really good. My kids have enjoyed it. In the beginning, they hated it, but now they're really enjoying it. And before that, we read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. They've seen all of the movies, but they've never read the book, so they had a lot of fun seeing the differences between the book and the movie and pointing those out. So after we finished it, we watched the film, and then we had a lengthy discussion and dialogue around what things were similar, what things were different, even how the characters were different. So that was nice. And then I also ordered the Chamber of Secrets. This is not in the curriculum, but we're going to probably over the summer try to get to all of these because they did enjoy them. Even though they know most of the story, they did enjoy seeing the differences and pointing them out. So we'll probably read these at bedtime. And then this one, The Giver, Lois Lowry, this is actually from their level 5 or 6 curriculum, but because of everything that we have going on with COVID, with vaccines, all of these issues, my son was interested in reading this. And after we read this one, we saw the movie and then discussed the difference. So we haven't done too many literature selections or literature read alouds. In years past, we've done much more, but we've sort of slowed down the pace because of everything that's been going on. But the ones that we have read so far, we've really enjoyed. And this is just a small excerpt. There's more books. I just have some of them randomly all over the place, and I couldn't gather them all for this video. But if you go to the Build Your Library website and if you look at level 4, she has all of the different book selections there, so you can see everything that's recommended for that level for literature. And then now we have, let's see, where are we now? In our order of things. Okay. Oh, well, actually, I missed one thing. So during independent work, at the very end, we do reading. We do 30 minutes of independent reading before we do any of the couch stuff that we've done, that we've been going through right now. So my son will take 30 minutes. He finished All About Reading levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then at that point, I felt like he was confident enough in his reading. His fluency was good. So I moved him into reading chapter books. And he would do 30 minutes. So one of the books that he read was James and the Giant Peach. And Build Your Library does recommend some readers. He didn't like a lot of the readers, so he's picked some of his own. We've gone on Amazon.com, he's looked at them, or we've gone to Barnes & Noble and he's looked at them and he's chosen them. Or I found some at the small community libraries that you see in the towns or in the parks. And if I find a book that he likes, I'll choose it. And one of those books was Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. This is one of those community library books, and he really enjoyed this one. He likes anything that has to do with animals and nature. So another one that I picked out for him that I had for a while was Black Beauty, and then he saw the movie right after. He also saw James and the Giant Peach right after, and he had a ball. And he felt so confident and so knowledgeable because we hadn't read these ourselves, myself and my husband and my daughter. He had a really great time feeling like the subject matter expert in telling us about the book and telling us the comparisons and the contrast between the book and the movie. So that was really exciting to watch, to see him light up in that way and really present it to us. So it was a great opportunity to also practice those public speaking skills, those communication skills, and those thinking skills. So these were really great books. There's a bunch of other ones, but like I mentioned, I couldn't gather them all. The one that he's reading right now is Minecraft the Mountain. And it's been a lesson in flexibility and letting your kids really take ownership of their education and really becoming those self-led learners. So there was another book that I wanted him to read instead, but he really wanted to read this one. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And I gave, I just put that book to the side. Maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't. But it turns out that the writer of this book was the writer of the movie that has Brad Pitt in it, World War Z. And he wrote that book, and then it went on to become the movie. So after doing that, then he went into, this is by Max Brooks, and then he went on to write this book based off of Minecraft and creating a narrative around it. So he's almost done with this one. He's right over here. And this is my reluctant reader. If you've seen some of my videos on my YouTube channel, Learning and Lore, this is my reluctant reader. So he was all lit up when he found this book. He found it in Barnes and Noble? No, Walmart. He found it in Walmart, and he bought it with his own chore money, and it just made my day. It made me feel like, yes, we finally we're here. We're here where he's finally loving books and loving that time of sitting in the couch and spending 30 minutes reading something. So this is his little bookmark, and what I've been doing is I'll mark when he starts the book, when he finishes it. So for instance, some of the books that he's read is The Whipping Boy. That's a Build Your Library book. Tappanum's Day, If You Lived with the Iroquois, and some of these are from 2020. Yeah, so these are from level 3. Miss Suzuki is Kooky, Because of Winn-Dixie, Beast Quest, Black Beauty, James and the Giant Peach, Rats of Nim, and now this one. So yes. So I let him take as long as he wants, but he loves it. He's gone from being a begrudging reader to getting excited about sitting in his sitting in his armchair, curled up with a book for 30 minutes. So for me, that's a big win. Big win. All right, so that's what my son is doing for reading. Now Mia, she is finishing up level 4 of All About Reading, and she has come such a long way. She really, really loves this curriculum. It's very interactive. It's Orton Gillingham based, so it's multisensory, and it has really, really helped her more than any other curriculum that we've done. So I do have on my radar the Barton system in case she does need a little bit more practice, or moving on from this into All About Spelling to really create more of a solid foundation. But after doing so much research on dyslexia, on the different approaches for reading, I feel really good about where she is right now. She's really soaring. She's moving towards that fluency, and she is right over here. She's almost done with this book. So she's more than halfway done. And to give you an idea of what it looks like, so this is the teacher's manual. It comes with these cards, and there's a little yellow box where you have them all organized by lesson. You have the phonogram cards, and then you have the vocabulary cards or the fluency cards. So it comes with these great little worksheets. They're bright and colorful now, and you go over them, and once they've mastered them, I have her go through them and then see the progression and the improvement that she has after she practices the words a few times. So she'll see that she'll go from maybe having 10 wrong to the second time that she reviews it, she'll go down to 5. And how practice really does make a difference. And that really helps with her confidence as well, because she could see that putting in the time does help her improve in her reading. So, so for instance, this page is for a story that we're going to be reading, Pigs in the Kitchen. And it'll usually have some kind of cool, fun, interactive game. This is a trail mix recipe. And then they'll also have questions, different terms, literary terms, and all kinds of things. So this is what it looks like. This is what the TM looks like. And there's also little tiles, magnetic tiles that have the phonograms and that the child can use to build the words using a magnetic board. So we did use those for the first few levels, but now we're at the point where she doesn't really need it, which is great. So she really loves this book. Some of the activities are more on the younger side. And if you have a child that's a little bit more mature, my daughter, she's a little bit more mature. So some of them are a little young. So we'll skip those, but for the most part, she likes most of them. So that is that. And then STM, this is the student workbook that it comes with. So I tear everything out, I hole punch it, and then I put it in a nice little binder like this. Because once we're done with all the levels, if she does need review in anything, I can always go back to these fluency sheets and have her go through it. So for instance, if we're reading a book that's not related to the curriculum at all, that maybe we got from the library or from our own personal library, and I notice that she's rusty with a certain phonogram, I can come in here and we can revisit that lesson. So it's really nice. And this is one of the activities that, for instance, this is for, let's see, phonogram OU, and it's a soup activity. Let me see if I can move it. It's a soup activity. So they're a lot of fun. They're very bright and colorful and vibrant. So she should be done with this over the summer. And then at that point, I'll see. I might do the same chapter books, some of the same chapter books that Elias did, with maybe a little bit more activities that I'll make either myself or I'll seek them out. Or I might look for something that's a little bit more dyslexia friendly or based a chapter book series. These amazing groups on Facebook that are for parents that homeschool and have dyslexia have been an invaluable resource for me, as well as doing my own research and also really enjoying the resources behind these books that we've that we've read when it comes to dyslexia. So so that right now that's still working great when it comes to reading for her. So level 4 comes with, let's see, it comes with 2 volumes of books, and these are all short stories. And to give you an idea of what they look like, so for instance, volume 1 starts with A Scary Night, and this is what the text looks like. So she'll usually read it once, and then she'll read it again either to me or to dad, and that really helps with mastery and fluency. She gets to see the words again, and she loves seeing how her speed and her accuracy increases. So it's a wonderful thing, and she gets to also read in front of her big brother. So I usually have her read aloud to myself, to my husband, or to some, to an audience when she's doing the second reading. The first one, if she's making a lot of mistakes, for the first reading, I really like her having that privacy and doing it with me, and then really seeing her skills and her effort and her work take off when she does that second reading, and then showing it off to the family. So she's done with the first volume, and now she's in volume 2, which is The Voyage. And to give you an idea of what they end up reading at the end of level 4, let me turn to that page. All right. We have Ditto the Rhyming Echo, and this is what they end up reading. And the passages do become long, so about 10 to 12 pages. A lot of nice, fun illustrations, but it is long, and the text does get smaller. So that is level 4. And then, so after the couch work, then we have a break. We have lunch. We go outside and get some sun. We go swimming in the pool. We'll dance. We'll go out into the front porch. We'll just enjoy being at home. We'll take a long lunch and relax. Sometimes I might even take a nap if I feel like I need it, or I'll meditate. And then once we come back, this is when we break out into groups. So my son will do something on the computer, or my daughter will do a few activities on the computer, and then I'll work with the child one-on-one on math and writing, which are the 2 skills or the 2 subjects where they really need that intense one-on-one help. So for writing, my son is doing the critical thinking company levels 1, 2, and 3. I haven't gotten level 3 yet because he just got level 2. He just moved into level 2. So level 1 went over the same sort of process as level 2 and 3, but it's a little bit less rigorous. So I like this these workbooks because it does go over the types of writing, and it gives a nice rubric and flow and examples of how writing should be. So it goes over the 5 steps of the 5-paragraph essay. It also has some suggested books, which we didn't use, but it goes over personal narratives. And it goes over the writing process with a nice rubric. And it also goes over what you should be doing when it comes to brainstorming. So it gives you an example and a fictional character or student that's thinking about how they want to create a story or a narrative or an essay. And then it goes over how they do certain bullet points, the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, and why, their first draft, a revising checklist to give them an idea of what they should be looking for as far as corrections and thinking skills, and then a revised draft and what that would look like, an editing checklist, and then what they finally publish. So they get to really see from beginning to end what a piece of writing looks like and what a high quality piece of writing should look like. So I really love that because we tried a lot of different methods before this, and it was very elusive to my son what good writing should look like. It was like a unicorn. He wasn't sure what it should look like. So this is nice because he's able to see that progression and how certain mistakes that the student is making, what they are, highlighting them and then correcting them and so on. So the flow that we do with this is, so now this is level 2. Let me just show you what that looks like. So you see the passages get a little longer. The paragraphs, the essays get longer, and it just gets a little bit more sophisticated as you move through the levels. So for instance, this is a piece of his writing that he did this week. So, and then the great thing is that as he's, they also have a page where they have certain topics or ideas that the child can choose from if they don't have an idea of what they might want to write. In this case, he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to go over a story about a groundhog that we had in our yard last year. But if, let's say, your child is stumped, it has a list and they can just pick from those story starters and start writing. So, so as they start writing, they can also refer back to the example if they get stuck at any point. So in this case, we did the brainstorming session. We did the story mapping and all those things. And then we went ahead and we wrote all of the paragraphs. So this took about 2 days. He did 2 paragraphs a day. And then by the 3rd day, we reread everything. We made corrections to improve it, as you can see in blue. And then on the 4th day, he typed it up. And then at that point, when he types it up, he'll show it to his dad or to his sister or somebody else and ask for feedback. And then the great thing about the PC is that he can also have the story read back to him. It's a great way if you have any auditory processing, or just a great way to see the flow of writing. I always, whenever I'm teaching my kids, I always tell them how writing is like a river, how it should flow, it should really stream through, and it also shows your voice, your writing voice, and you want it to sound like yourself in a more polished and refined way, but it should sound like you, and you should always inject your own personal narrative and that richness of experience in your writing, because writing is a way to really document your history, document your experiences, and without writing, we wouldn't have a vehicle to do that. So, case in point, this groundhog that we had visiting, our our brand new garden was in jeopardy because of this groundhog. Now this year we have a bunny that's eating our crops. So, but this groundhog was going after our crops, and he was able to recall that story and bring it to life and put it in writing. So he really enjoyed that. He's like, yeah, Mom, now I have this writing recorded, this story recorded, and now I can refer back to it when I'm older, and I've forgotten about the groundhog. So he's written it out. He's in the process of typing it, and then after he reads it, then we save it, and then we go back to it and we edit it again. We do spell check. So we approach writing from this process where writing is not necessarily a one and done thing, but professional writers, this is what they do. They take their time with their writing, and it's a process and it takes time. You can definitely just write a piece, but if it's something that you want to publish and you want to have be high quality, that's the process of doing it and really honoring that process. So that's what we've been doing in levels 1, 2, and 3. For next year, we might be doing something else, maybe a video-based program. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't really decided anything, but this is working so far. Does he love writing? Not yet, but he's definitely seeing the utility and the benefits of writing. So that's a win-win in my book. And then my daughter, she's doing Writing Fabulous Sentences and Paragraphs by Evan Moore, grades 4 to 6. My son also did this last year. And these are really nice, short, fun passages, writing prompts. And it's great. It's really, really, really great. It really helps to progress the writing. And then we have a one-section web. It talks about story webs. Let's see what else. Writing about an event, writing about an animal, note-taking, rubrics, outlines, all kinds of things, but in a very digestible and short way. An unorganized report. Yeah, so this has been fun. She's been enjoying this. She's definitely more of a natural writer, so she's been enjoying that. And then if she feels strongly about, this is something that I give both my children, if they feel strongly about a topic or if they have an idea for something that they want to write, they can do a free write. So they can just write a whole entire page or 2 pages, even if there's spelling errors and whatnot, and then we'll go back and rework the piece. So that's something else that we also do. Okay, so now we're down to, so this is the end of the day because these are the 2 pieces that take the most time and that are the most individualized between both my kids. So then while I'm working with one child, the other one is doing the computer work. That way we have a lot of uninterrupted time because writing does take time, and so does math. So the next one is math, and my son is doing Saxon 5-4, and this is based off of the recommendation that I saw on the Robinson curriculum. And we do use the Robinson list over the summer or even during the year for reading, for bedtime reading or reading in general, if my kids want to read certain books. So we do pull from that list. And eventually I do want my son to do this by himself. And with the Saxon books, you can. It has so much in-depth explanation for each of the lessons, which I love. And before this, he did math lessons for a living education, which is great. It's a homeschool-based curriculum, and it's very Charlotte Mason-based, and it's a great math curriculum, but I did notice that it didn't have as much explanation of concepts for children who aren't very just intuitive math kids. My son really likes to have an explanation of things, and so do I sometimes with certain concepts as you move up in the levels, in the grades. So I really do like this one, and I love that each problem, when you're doing the exercises, shows you in parentheses what lesson you can find it in the book. So if let's say that you're progressing and you forget a lesson, you forget a concept, you can look to see what that lesson is, and you can go back in the book and refresh yourself, refresh your memory. So because he does not like writing, I think that's part of the reason also why he doesn't like this curriculum. But when I'm sitting next to him, he does do it. but he just doesn't like the manual writing of this because the other curriculum was more of a filling in the blank and a little bit less writing, which you'll see once we go into Mia's math. So he takes the notebook, he writes all of the problems, and then I have an answer key. So eventually, according to Robinson, the child will then be able to self-check their own problems. We're not there yet, but that's what we're building towards. And I love that it's very similar to Right Start Math, which my son did do. He did the first 2 levels of Right Start Math. There's a lot of mental math practice in the beginning, and I think that's just amazing. It's a skill that every child should have, and he really excels in that. He really does well with the mental math, so he really does like that part in the beginning of the lesson, and then it goes into the concepts and different examples in the lesson, and the lesson isn't long. So let me show you, for instance, this is one. So you have the mental math, the math facts practice. Then you have the lesson, the problem set examples, practice, and then you have all the problems that you have to work through. So it's not long. It is black and white. It's not colorful. It's not bright or kiddie-ish, which is more of what he was used to. So that's also a big change. But I do love that it's a deep substance math curriculum. So I hope to stick with it. And then we're also supplementing with Time for Learning Math, which has a lot of fun videos, with different concepts. So he is doing the 6-week condensed study guide of that he started a few weeks ago, all the way into the summer. So he does that on the computer as well as this math work. And in that Time for Learning Math, there's also a math facts practice. So we do that book that I went over in the at some point in this video, and then we do also the math facts practice that's more game-based in Time for Learning. So that's what he's doing for math. And then Mia, she's doing math lessons for living education. She's doing level 4. She's a little bit behind with the math, but she is doing the Time for Learning also for 5th. So they're both working together. So because there's the dyslexia going on, it's very interesting because you have to have patience. You have to have massive patience. So I have dyscalculia. So I didn't master my math facts up until almost college. And I still struggle with adding, subtracting, multiplying. And my husband, he's amazing. He's an engineer, and he's very math oriented. So he's a big help to me, but it's something that I still struggle with. So I want to give that context because you want to value improvement versus mastery or being perfect when it comes to dyslexia. I'm really celebrating the strengths that the child or the person has. So I love math lessons for living education for any child that prefers right brain, narrative, or has dyslexia, because there's a specific narrative, a certain story that's being revisited, rebrought, and built upon as you move through each of the levels. And it really helps to avoid a lot of that switching, a lot of that change that happens when you're doing math problems. Because when you're doing word problems in specific, it takes a lot of cognitive switching, a lot of cognitive load to go from remembering one passage, one story to another when you're doing a math problem. So here, because you have the same characters, you have the same story, and just different things that are happening, it makes it easier to do the math operations and focus on the math operations versus the story. So it's really nice. It's a nice way to build in math, and I've loved this curriculum for that reason. It's also very robust. It is a very good curriculum, but there were definitely certain things that I just didn't like as you progress into the higher grades. There's less explaining, and for level 6 there is a teacher's manual, but for level 5 there isn't. And I felt like I did need a little bit more explaining in level 5. that I just didn't get. So I had to rely on my husband to kind of come in and explain certain things. But so that's why I didn't really like it for fifth for that reason. So to give you an idea, there's these passages in green, these story passages. Oh, let me see if I can tilt it. There we go. These story passages in green. There's even recipes, and it goes over Nathy, Charlotte, and Charlie and their adventures as a homeschooling family, learning math and homeschooling together, and even fostering and then adopting children, other siblings. So it's really, really, really nice. And there's an answer key in the back. There's copy work, which is very CM and classical based. And it does go over all of the major things that you need to cover for each level. So we're doing that, and then we're also doing Time for Learning fifth and incorporating those video-based things and the math facts, more math facts practice. We're also doing the language arts 6-week intensive when it comes to that. So there's a lot more grammar being gone over in Time for Learning too. So my daughter and my son have been really enjoying it. They like anything that's video game based. So I was really happy when I found Time for Learning. So as far as computer programs, computer websites. So at this point, you're like, oh my goodness, this is so much, but it's really not. It goes fast, and once your kids get used to a certain flow and what they're supposed to be doing, they grab it and they go because they want to get done and get in the pool or go out to the park or go out to their activities and so on. So on the computer, they do typing. So Typing Club, we've been doing that for a few years, and we've been also trying out typing.com, which is similar, and they've been really enjoying that. I might move them to the Good and the Beautiful's typing program, which is less computer based, and it's a workbook, and then they do certain exercises on the computer. But that's still up in the air. We might do that for next year. And then the other thing that they love doing is reading news articles online. So Time for Kids is a favorite in our home. It's progressive, so you can go from a K to first level all the way up to fifth or sixth. And they're also adding in higher levels. So they've also liked National Geographic magazine, which we used to have a subscription for, and they used to read that whenever it came in. They love getting mail. But right now they've been really jiving and vibing with Time for Kids, so we've been stuck, pretty much there doing that. So they add a new article about once every week, and they love just comparing what they've read, calling us over and saying, "Hey, look what's in the news. Look what they came up with or what came out," and it's just a nice way to introduce current events to kids. The other website that they really like is Mystery of Science. And this is just a supplemental video science program. It's for the elementary years, and they love the factoids and just the different things that they discover from Mystery of Science. It's very similar to Sesame Street or a lot of the programs that maybe you might find on TV. We don't watch a whole lot of TV, so Mystery of Science is almost reminiscent to that, those sorts of science-y episodes that you might find on TV. But they're more in-depth and they're more rich, educational based. Then for Spanish, we're fluent Spanish speakers, so I try to speak Spanish as much as I can at home, even if they respond back in English. They have it spoken. I also play a lot of Spanish TV when I can. We also listen to Spanish music in the car, and we use Duolingo right now for Spanish. They also have books in a certain section in Duolingo where they're able to read the books and answer. So that's a lot of fun. My son loves the book section in Duolingo. And I've also come across certain higher level chapter books that we're going to be moving into next year. And then the other website that they love that's very video based, very visual, is Rocalingua. And it's they're just really fun, very well animated, high quality videos, created by a Spanish creator, creator in Spain, and they've been just listening to those. So they'll do those. They'll watch one or two per day. And then before we did Time for Learning Math Facts, we were doing the Easy Peasy Math Facts. So if you go to the Easy Peasy or the All-in-One Homeschool website, under courses, there's a section that has math facts. So you can go over division facts, addition, multiplication. So they were going in there and doing a few math facts. But they weren't as intense as the Time for Learning Math Facts. But it still was great. There were a lot of different websites listed there that you can use to practice math facts. And then they do the Time for Learning, like I mentioned before, so LA math facts. And another thing that I would put, in case I was still working with my daughter or I was working with my son, I would have them do the Under the Home music videos. So for music, my kids had a lot of music instruction when they were younger. They took piano lessons for about 5 to 6 years. They learned how to read music and all those things, but they didn't enjoy it. So we're exploring choir for my daughter. She is showing an interest in singing. So that's something that we're going to be exploring, a homeschool group. I was connected to another mom by this other amazing mom that I met here in my area. So we're exploring maybe doing choir for my daughter, but we're still not sure. She enjoys singing, but she's not she's not exactly sure if she wants to do it gun-ho, like full class sort of thing. But in the beginning and during their early years, they had so much musical instruction. They also did dance, that this is all we've done pretty much for music. So we'll see. We'll see what other instrument my son might want to do. He might want to do drums. I'm not sure. But right now we're not too focused on music because we have a lot going on when it comes to writing and really honing in these basic skills. So okay, so then for PE, so physical education, during the pandemic, during the fall, we did hiking, we did biking, we did walks, running. They ran with me. And then in the winter, we did dance, we did walks, we did yoga, either morning yoga or bedtime yoga. And then in the spring, we did archery with other homeschoolers. We have a garden, so that was very labor intensive, preparing the beds, carrying the water, and doing all the labor when it comes to gardening, as well as walks and running. And then now in the summer, we're doing a lot of swimming in the pool and doing nature hikes as part of classes, which also throw in a lot of science in there, and gardening as well. So that's basically what PE is right now. My kids have done tennis in the past. They've done horseback riding. They've done, what else? They've done so many things, dance, but they aren't very sports inclined sorts of kids. They've liked tennis. They've liked more of the one-on-one sorts of sports activities. So we'll see. Right now, it's not something that they're super lit up about, but we are active. We encourage an active lifestyle. So after dinner every day, we go for family walks. We run. We try to run at least a few times a week. We go biking. We are just active and making sure that our body's always healthy and in motion. So that's what we are focusing on when it comes to PE. And then for extracurriculars, right now my kids are really interested in nature studies. So we're doing a lot of nature classes through a lot of the nature environmental centers that we have available to us here, and different farms that are near here that have opportunities for homeschoolers and for classes and enrichment. And then they've also been enjoying veterinary classes and exploring that as a career opportunity. My son specifically might be interested in veterinary studies, maybe working for a zoo and so on. So this is a nice way for them to discover if this is something that they want to explore more in depth. And then I've recently started a local group called the Homeschool Hive. So if you're watching this and you're in New Jersey, in South Jersey, I would love to have you so we get together at different parks. And I'm hoping to also incorporate, excuse me, also incorporate field trips. So that's been a lot of fun to do now that things are opening up a little bit more and just becoming more active now during these warmer months after the COVID madness and the just the cold weather that we've been in. And what else? Science, nature hikes. And my daughter specifically mentioned that she wants to reboot her YouTube channel. So we were doing the graphics and the branding when it comes to her YouTube channel. That's where my zone of genius is. So rebranding that, coming up with a new name, going through the business practice of choosing a good name as far as it coming up in search, new brand colors, and thinking about a production schedule, what she might want to start posting, and rebooting that soon. So that has been a lot of fun. And my son also expressed an interest in doing Minecraft videos. He did some videos in the past, but now that we're feeling good and a little bit more settled in our new home and in our new rhythm, really picking that up again. So that is what we did this year for 5th and 6th. I'm so excited because over Memorial Day, that's when I hunkered down and I started thinking about the new year and getting a lot of downloads, spiritual downloads, and just revelations of what it is that we want to move forward with when it comes to the next year. So getting clarity around that, seeing what those things are, and over the summer then starting to make those purchases when it comes to books and different things. So that's where I am when it comes to preparing for next year. So if you're also celebrating the end of a year, I would love to hear about it. What did you go over this year? What did you focus on? What are you planning to and looking forward to for the next homeschool year? I would love to hear about it down below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.